Hey guys, welcome to another very exciting episode of Ringside Seats presented by Buzz Continuum, and I'm your host Silent Ronan, and we are going to discuss today the events that have taken place in the last week in the world of wrestling. And to discuss these events and to predict what may happen in the future, I have with me Erahon and Absolute Bubber.
Hey guys.
Hey Rod.
So guys, we've had a very exciting week of wrestling. We've had the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view last weekend, which was the second last pay-per-view on the road to WrestleMania. And we just have Fastlane coming up, but before we discuss that, let's talk about the Elimination Chamber fallout. We had the two Elimination Chamber matches featuring the women's title being defended on one of them and the number one contender for the men's title being decided in the other. I think for both these matches we chose who would win last week and we got them right. So let's talk about the women's match. I think that was one of the most unique matches we've seen in recent times. And according to me, I think that was a better match than the men's Elimination Chamber. We had predicted Alexa Bliss would win, and she did. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it was a really good match. And I think considering that they put females into an Elimination Chamber, they really played to the strength of the chamber and allowed the females to really work well in that environment. I think overall, the booking of the match was good, then Alexa winning clean.
Yeah, that's a very valid point you make. She won clean. AB, what do you think about that? That's one of the few clean victories we've seen Alexa have in her long reign as champion. So, do you think that built her strong? Do you think she deserved it?
I think finally starting to look for the WrestleMania match, and I think she deserves it as well. I mean, the way she's carried it, she's amazing on promos, and she's done a fantabulous job carrying, if I may say, the women's division on Raw. But yeah, I think it was way better than the Royal Rumble that these guys had last month.
Yeah, you make a valid point there. I think especially the finish was pretty amazing where you had Alexa and they used her pretty well in the chamber. They had her climbing all around the chamber walls until she was finally cornered by Bayley and Sasha, and even the end, the actual finish where she hit Sasha with a twisted bliss from on top of one of the pods and then gave DDT from the top rope. So great match, but I don't think you can say the same about the men's chamber match because we spoke about it last week, and I think we all knew the outcome of this match. The only thing that remained to be seen was how it played out, and I think they went with a very clear story, which wasn't much of a story in it by itself, but they very clearly wanted to position Braun Strowman as the monster amongst men, and in that process, the limelight was completely on him and then on Reigns when he finally rose up to the occasion and put him down. But I think it was a miss for the rest of the guys who were there in the chamber. What do you guys think?
Okay, my problem with that match is the fact that, I hate this stop push that they're giving Roman Reigns. And honestly, I would cheer for Roman Reigns if he's actually booked strong and if we actually see him struggle the whole, the match and then beat. It's John Cena way, if I may say. But yeah, pretty disappointed with that match.
But I think, apart from, of course, Strowman and Reigns who were booked strong, Braun throughout the match and Reigns at the end, I think the only other person you could probably say came out looking very strong in the match was, of course, Seth Rollins. Erhan, what do you think about that? What do you think about the beginning of the match where for the very first time we had three people starting the match with Rollins being one and The Miz and Balor being the other two?
I think it was a great twist to just show that, and they sort of tease alliances, and that's what Miz does best. One of the best teams in the business, and it was a good start. But once Reigns and Strowman were in the chamber, it was all Strowman till the end.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make. We've been talking about The Miz, we've talked about Finn, we've talked about Rollins and Strowman, of course, but the other person who is involved, who would potentially be involved in this match is Elias, and while they built him up before the EC pay-per-view quite well, he won the match against Strowman and Cena, which is quite a feat in itself, and secured the last position in the chamber. But that didn't have much of an effect during the match. That was, I think, the most underplayed segment of the match. I thought they could have done more with him.
And I think that's exactly what I would also want to point out, right? That's exactly what I'm also saying. Think about it, Elias. At least they should have given him a guitar inside the pod. He could have just played, some music or something. The whole thing where he won the match, the triple threat that he was in, nothing really came out of it. It was booked to make Braun Strowman look very strong the whole time, and then Reigns eventually defeating the monster.
And we've seen that happen before. I mean, if I recall correctly, I've seen Punk during his time when he was leading the Straight Edge Society, cutting promos in the middle of the Elimination Chamber. So we could have seen something of that sort from Elias. Unfortunately, that didn't come around. But for the few minutes that he was there in the ring, this has been spoken about previously as well. Elias is a very impressive wrestler inside the ring. He's very flexible. He's a large guy, but he's also very swift, and he has this agility which I would presume you could compare to someone like, say, a Seth Rollins. But he doesn't really get that opportunity to showcase his wrestling skills in the ring. Aaron, what do you think about that? I mean, do they give too much time to him for his pre-match promos, and do you think, his potential as a wrestler is being sidelined for his gimmick as a musician?
See, in the end, everyone in the business is a good wrestler. The idea is to get the gimmicks over, and once the gimmick is accepted, then they can show off the skill. I think Elias has now entered that place where, he's quite over in his gimmick. Everyone's chanting along, people enjoy the walk with Elias. And I'm sure in due time he'll get more better chances to really show himself as a wrestler in the matches. But yeah, Elias is definitely one of the most improved wrestlers, I would say. I mean, a year back he was in NXT, and now he's in the main event and Elimination Chamber. I don't think anyone is expecting him to win, but he's definitely come leaps and bounds, and an IC title run would be really nice to see.
Right. And talking about gimmicks, one of the gimmicks which we had kind of written off last week was Woken Matt and his entire feud with Bray Wyatt. But I think that was one of the better matches at the pay-per-view. They did put up a very interesting match which nobody expected them to put up, but it was a great match, and whatever happened at Raw after that, it seems like this feud will continue on probably till Mania.
It's the perfect example. When you see that match, obviously the match was pretty good, but it's a perfect example to show that, if you're not if WWE is not serious about a storyline, and they're not, doing it in an entertaining manner, the crowd is not going to, be supporting that. It was disappointing to see the crowd was not at all involved in that match.
Yeah, I think there were chances of Rusev Day as well during that match.
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and, talking about, the pay-per-view, we've had this thing, and AB, if you would like to shed some light on this, you've been running a campaign on the WWE pay-per-views since sometime last year on a specific team, commentators team. So, would you like to shed some light on this campaign that you've been running, and how successful
I
have
would
you been?
just like to say that for you guys and obviously the listeners, go to my Twitter handle, Absolute Bubble. Just check every pay-per-view. I keep tweeting to them with an image of the two Hindi commentators that they have. I don't even want to name them, but they are, they're the worst thing that could happen to Hindi commentary.
Yeah, so for the benefit of all our listeners who don't know who these guys are, and who of course don't listen to the Hindi commentary, these two gentlemen, Mr. Obaid Kadwani and Mr. Shez Sardar, have been doing the commentary on pay-per-views, and there's the specific pay-per-views that are with Hindi commentary are only available on the WWE network. So very few people have access to that.
You don't even have to seriously, man. The problem with them is that, the 10-15 seconds that they get every pay-per-view in between when they have to say something really interesting, to the audience.
Right.
There are like millions of people watching them on the WWE network and otherwise. The kind of thing that they say is, Chalo dekhe WWE, or something really stupid. It doesn't even make sense. I don't know why are they even employed? Why are they even part of the system? But again, that's why we keep continuing this
So
campaign.
your campaign is basically asking for a change in commentary.
My campaign basically is to just highlight what these guys are doing,
Which is absolutely rubbish.
What happens after that is something that, it's not something that I would like to focus on. I mean, you remove them, you have someone else. I leave it up to WWE, Triple H. He's doing a fabulous job, but then these guys are doing a terrible job.
Right, so we hope your campaign is a success and something does happen on that front. But, talking about Triple H, we had Triple H make a make an appearance on Raw, and of course it's the road to WrestleMania, so Triple H and Stephanie both will be making frequent appearances. But talk to me about that, AB. What was the entire segment with Ronda Rousey and that amazing Kurt Angle moment?
The best segment during the pay-per-view was this segment. When I saw Ronda Rousey stuttering while she was, when she initiated her promo, she was
Raw was terrible, but the Raw part was so sad. I mean, Kurt Angle coming saying he's lying, Stephanie apologizing when Ronda should have probably had her an armbar over there and just looking at her. That was really sad. I mean, it was good for the pay-per-view. I really think they didn't do the story justice on Raw. They could have had
extending the story. Think about it. What's really happening is now Ronda Rousey is the badass that we want her to be. Kurt Angle was all apologetic.
He should have done something more badass at Raw. I mean, he should have tried to attack Stephanie. They should have pulled them apart. They could have done a little more physicality.
Yeah, I think they're trying to build that, over time. So, because they do have a few weeks left in hand, they have a month's worth of...
that's a WrestleMania moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a WrestleMania moment to
Exactly.
see, Ronda Rousey breaking Stephanie McMahon's arm. That is going to be, you don't want that. There has to be a payoff for that. So,
Right.
Yeah,
and having said whatever about that segment, it did go off as a big hit with the internet wrestling community. I mean, it's been tweeted, it's been posted on Instagram.
She's the new Stone Cold. She is the new Stone Cold.
Yeah, and that entire segment where Triple H very sneakily punched Kurt while he was making funny face, that has been used as a meme across social media, and it's actually become a sleeper hit, right?
Kurt Angle has been brilliant, I mean, this is the work that I've actually done. He's more like the Kurt Angle that he was in the 90s.
Right, and talking about someone who's pretty badass is Seth Rollins. I mean, last Raw, he set a record-breaking match time limit where he wrestles for like 50 plus minutes, 60 plus minutes. And this week again, I mean, in that match with The Miz, that frog splash was out of nowhere and it was amazing. Right? Rohan, what do you think about that?
He just continues to impress, I think, and it's only going to show that he's going to get a good spot at WrestleMania. I think it's a nice story they're building over there as well for the IC Championship. I think people are obviously wondering who's it going to be, and the question is still out there now. So it was Rollins, it's Balor, you've got Strowman and Elias who are sitting and not doing much. But it looks like it's heading for all five of them at Mania, but let's just watch that closely.
Yeah, so they've had a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship over the past few years, and it looks as though it's going to go down that way. But there was a very interesting feud that they're trying to build between Rollins and Balor, where Balor interrupted Rollins while during his celebration with his entrance. So that has been building up for some time, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but across live shows that the WWE holds, the Raw brand has been featuring Rollins and Balor as a tag team. So that's an interesting dynamic which they're trying to build. Let's see which way it goes. And talking about the entire Universal title scene, Brock Lesnar was a surprising no-show. He was advertised for Raw, but he didn't end up making it. And we then got to witness Roman make something that was a shoot-like promo. And I'll be the first person to say that I'm not a big Roman Reigns fan. I would have typically 5 to 10 people in my list of people who I would want to see as a champion before him. But I have to say that was one of the most honest and true promos that you'll get to hear. Typically, and he's right, because he represents the guys who have been putting it in day in and day out, putting in their effort, performing in ring on live shows, but without getting a final payoff. And it has been seen over the past few years that the part-timers are getting a better opportunities in terms of title matches at WrestleMania. So, what do you guys think about that? Maybe?
Okay. Nothing, not taking anything away from Roman Reigns. I think it was, if I may say again, it was one of the best promo that he has actually, done. But when you think about it, it's more of a copy-paste from what Cena was doing to Rock a few years back, with a few changes, obviously. And Reigns is always good on mic, or he always seems to be good on mic when he doesn't have an opponent, in the ring. who can actually reply back.
Right. And what do you think about Roman Reigns? His chances? Are you for? Do you think he should take the strap off Lesnar at Mania? Do you think he deserves it?
He definitely will, and I think it's mostly so that the Universal title can start getting featured on more of the pay-per-views. I think one thing with Brock is what we've seen, the IC title rise to prominence, but the Universal title is like, it's a special attraction, and I think people want to see it more often, and they deserve to see it more often. So Reigns as champion will ensure that. I'm all in for it.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point.
I think Lesnar actually done a lot. I mean, he is one of a kind wrestler that that is a part of the system, and what he has done, he has actually made this Universal title. And I know there will be criticism to this, but it is a prize money fight whenever he is a part of a pay-per-view or a match.
Yeah, valid point there. And it has been an absent title for a very long time, the Universal title. So hopefully we'll get to see it in more pay-per-views. But coming down to SmackDown, which has the Fastlane pay-per-view coming up, we saw John Cena step up his game on the show and being added to the now 6-man match for the title. What do you guys think of that? He is definitely upping his ante during this road to WrestleMania. He's been featured on both the pay-per-views back to back, and that even in the title scene. So, do you think? What do you think his road to WrestleMania is? Do you think he'll win the title and be inserted in as a triple threat with AJ and Shinsuke, or do you think he's facing one of these legendary opponents, be it Undertaker or Rey Mysterio, for that fact?
I think given the time we've got with Cena from Royal Rumble to Road to WrestleMania, they're trying to build the best story they can with him, and that's by putting him in all the pay-per-views. And I think it makes for interesting television. You do want to see where he goes with this. I definitely don't think he's going to walk out champion. I think that...
Right, and Maybe how over is Ziggler? I mean, he was being booed a few months and being positioned as a heel. But now suddenly over the last few weeks, he has simply gotten over with the crowd. And that has been his ability over the years. We've seen him hone that ability to the best of his extent. He has been able to turn the crowd over to his side with his false finishes and selling. I think he's one of the best in selling in today's business, and he's doing a great job at, while we don't see him as one of the main competitors who will stay in the title scene come WrestleMania, but he is proving himself day in, day out.
He's always been really good, and he's always been a great seller. That is why that's why I think he is in this position right now. But, and I have been a huge Ziggler fan. I still am in a way. But again, I think it's too late for him to get this push. Maybe, hopefully, after all WrestleMania is done, maybe we'll see him in a proper feud, and maybe one day we will see him as a champion. I mean, a man can dream.
Yep, we can. And talking about being over with the crowd, there is, I think, the guy who is the most over with the entire WWE universe across brands, I think today is Rusev. I mean, Rusev Day chants are being heard.
Oh, by the way, happy Rusev Day, guys.
Happy Rusev Day, guys.
Yeah, happy Rusev Day. But, his chants are being heard all over, not just the WWE. We even saw reports where, at an ROH event, people were chanting Rusev Day. They were chanting Rusev Day during, the match between Matt and Bray. So, surely there has to be some payoff for Rusev.
Hopefully he should, but this whole Rusev Day movement is the yes movement of today.
Oh,
so
interesting point you make there.
As much as he is big and as much as people are behind him, I mean, honestly, we don't see his storyline going anywhere. Maybe he's going to be a part of one of the matches. Maybe the Andre the Giant Battle Royale.
Which, in case you guys haven't heard, there are rumors that it's been scrapped this year, and they probably might replace it with the women's battle royale, but that isn't confirmed.
Weren't doing anything with that anyway. Yeah.
So probably we could see him being inserted with Aiden English into the tag team scene, because that's taken an interesting turn, because while we were all thinking the Bludgeon Brothers would be the guys who would get the next opportunity. Fastlane has a match between New Day and the Usos yet again.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, not going to happen. Think about it. New Day are going to get defeated again.
But I don't think the Bludgeon Brothers have the momentum to carry this on and get the victory at Mania. You think that?
I do think so. Because if you remember when they were Harper and Rowan in the Wyatt family, they had some amazing matches with the Usos, and the Usos weren't even over. I think just the matches quality were good when both of them. People didn't care about Harper and Rowan, neither did they care about Usos, but the matches they did were amazing. At this stage now, both of them have got really good behind their teams, and it'll be a really good match to showcase both their skills as well as who they really have, how they've progressed all these years. And it'll be one of the better matches on the card.
That's an interesting point you make there, because once Fastlane gets over, there is nothing much there for Kevin and Sami as well. And there have been rumors that they possibly could be added to the tag team title scene. So I think it's very interesting. I think the tag team division on SmackDown is one of those few places where we can't really call anything at the moment, because things could go either ways, and knowing the WWE, they will probably take decisions at the last moment. But talking about Kevin and Sami, they've just recently announced that Boom Studios is creating a new comic based on the two, which will be out in June, called Fight Forever. Taking a cue from the audience chants that happen whenever these guys are fighting. So what do you guys think? What sort of comic do you think? Will it be funny? Will it be action oriented? What do you guys think?
I think it'll be funny. I mean, Kevin Owens is one of the best and driest sense of humor I think we've seen in any of the WWE superstars of late. It has to be some sort of, it'll be something very zany, I'm sure, with both of them involved.
It should be over the top.
It will be, definitely.
It should be over the top, because I think that's something that, fans are going to love.
And talking about champions, we have one of the belts, which is the Cruiserweight Championship, which is vacated currently at the moment. The 205 live tournament is going really well. It's got great reviews from the audiences as well as critics, and the numbers are up for the 205 live program. But and it's been continuing this week as well. So apart from just discussing the matches, what we want to do this week is basically just call who we feel should be the last two guys at Mania, and who, according to us, would eventually go on to win it. So I'll take a shot at it first. I think probably because they are building a clear face and a heel is what I feel. I think it will be Roderick Strong and Drew Gulak at the finals at Mania, and I call for Roderick Strong going over, because it's finally due for him to win a belt. What do you guys think, Aaron?
100%. I was just going to say that. I am pretty sure Roderick Strong has had two amazing matches. And he has been, in fact, if you look at the quality of opponents he had Hideo Itami, which people thought he would lose to. Then he had Kalisto, the former Cruiserweight champion. So that shows how well he's being booked, and that definitely indicates he's going to be at Mania. Buddy Murphy is someone I'd like to see, but like it says, the better story is when you've got the full face and the full heel on one side. And Gulak's first match was pretty good. So I'm pretty sure he's going to find his way to the final at Mania, and Roddy's going to take it home.
AB, what are your views? Who do you think?
As much as I would want to see Roderick Strong as a champion, I mean, but I think Cedric Alexander is going to be in the main event.
Okay.
He has been billed as the number one contender for some time now, and he has been booked really strong. His finisher has been booked very, very strong. I think that he will be part of the main event.
Okay.
Maybe they will have a face versus face at WrestleMania for the Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point you make, that he has been built strong and his finisher has been built really strong. And they've been trying to give him that push for quite some time, but because of scenarios which are not in their control, it's unfortunately always not been able to take place. And he's always had his matches being cancelled or postponed. But probably we might just get to see him finally win the title at Mania. So that's an interesting twist. But so you're calling Cedric Alexander versus Roderick Strong. Is that what you're calling for?
Cedric Alexander versus Roderick Strong or Drew Gulak.
Okay, all right.
Roddy and Cedric will face up in the semis. They're on the same side of the table, so it has to be Gulak, and I think Gulak's definitely going, but it's between Roddy and Cedric, and I guess if you count all of three of our opinions.
Right. So let's see. Let's wait and see for WrestleMania.
So let's not count out Mustafa Ali.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick, Mustafa Ali. I think he and Cedric Alexander have had some of the greatest matches between themselves.
What a match Mustafa Ali had with against
the Gentleman Jack.
Exactly. What a match these guys had. So yeah, you never know.
Right. So that was an interesting call. Let's hope we get it right at Mania. And we've spoken about WWE last week as well. Let's deviate a bit this week and talk about NJPW. New Japan's been killing it, of course, and we've been covering them fairly well through our website and Buzz Continuum. But let's talk about what's happening there. We had Honor Rising happen last week. The Bullet Club is breaking up. What do you guys think is happening? Bullet Club's already been broken up into 2 or 3 odd factions right now. You've got the Tongans at one side. You've got Cody and his group at one side, and you've got Kenny and probably the Bucks. That's not even confirmed. What do you guys think? What's going to happen to the Bullet Club? Maybe
Cody is the man. I mean, when you watch the day one of Honor Rising and the previous some of the segments that these guys had, I think it will be great if he becomes. Or I think he's already the leader. He said that Bullet Club is fine and it's mine.
But Aaron, we've seen over the last year, Bullet Club kind of became a tweener group because you had Suzuki Gun come back and take over as the main heel faction. But what are your views on the fact that Tama Tonga has refused to come under anyone's leadership? Do you think he's going to break out? Tama Tonga and Fale are going to break out on their own?
I think they're the originals and they should stay the leaders of the club. Cody, definitely the way he's being showcased on ROH and New Japan is becoming that sort of a leader which is more visible, more on social media, which is where the Tongans lack. I think that's where they might still choose to put something like that on Cody.
Right. And a very interesting point that needs to be noted is if you realize the breakdown that's been happening between the members of the club, all the members who are a part of ROH are on one side. So you've got Cody, you've got Marty Scurll, you've got Hangman Page, and probably the Jackson brothers, the Young Bucks. You've got them on one side, and on the other side you've got Fale, you've got Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, and the Tokyo Pimp Takahashi. He's taken the side of the Tongans. So, probably we could get to see 2 different versions of the Bullet Club, one which exists within ROH and one which exists solely within NJPW. Just like we had 2 versions of the NWO in WCW. But, that remains to be seen what happens going forward. But, while talking about the Bullet Club, the former so-called leader of the Bullet Club, Kenny Omega has now formed a tag team with Kota Ibushi, their old tag team, the Golden Lovers, and they have declared themselves active in the tag team division. Why this is interesting is because, I'm sure you guys know that Evil has been sidelined with an injury, and he seems to be out for a long time, although they're not planning to strip Evil and Sanada off the titles, but there is a big gap over there, and probably Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi are here to fill in that gap. Yes, so Erhan, what do you think about that? The Young Bucks are now finally transitioning. They lost the titles to Roppongi 3000, and they're now finally transitioning to the heavyweight division, the heavyweight tag division. And they did tease a probable feud between the Golden Lovers and the Young Bucks, but that remains to be seen. But what are your views? The Young Bucks have come a long way from where they started and where they are today.
Yeah, I think that's well overdue, and they've shown that they can hang with everyone. They are ROH champions. They are six-man champions, and they were former IWGP Junior Heavyweight champions. So moving up to the heavyweight division, I think it was just a matter of time. I think the only reason they didn't make the move is because there was no one really in the junior heavyweights, and now with the Roppongi 3K, who are in the short amount of time have really established themselves, I think it's good to see the Young Bucks move up and give a lot of exciting potential matches for that heavyweight division.
And talking about exciting matches, I think the light heavyweight division is one of the most exciting junior heavyweight divisions in the world. And we heard Will Ospreay talk about it on his recent podcast with Chris Jericho about the fact that there are but only 4 guys in that division. It's between him, Kushida, Marty Scurll, and the ticking time bomb, Hiromu Takahashi. So my point is, because there is a lack of time. Not that they don't perform every time they're in the ring. I mean, each match is exceptional in quality, but I think there is a time, there is an opportunity for new talent to rise up the ranks in NJPW as well as from ROH. And we saw, and I think an example of that in when we saw Flip Gordon being included in one of the matches at Honor Rising, and he did put up a good performance. So, what do you think, Aaron, of Flip Gordon being added to the junior heavyweight division at NJPW?
I think it makes perfect sense. Really build on the relationship that ROH and NJPW have. There are a lot of guys in ROH who are like below the 205 capacity, and using them in the light heavyweight scene is the best way for them to really move forward. Flip Gordon there, you got guys like Will Ferrara as well. You can really use a lot of the talent between both rosters and really create a good story behind the championship.
And so I think that's it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope to see you again next week where we discuss more possibilities that will happen on the road to WrestleMania. So thank you so much for taking out time today, and catch you again next week.
Do also take out time to like this podcast as well as subscribe to our channel to get more info on the world of wrestling every week at Ringside Seats.